What up, everybody, and welcome back to the Endzone, brought to you by Gym Bag Entertainment, and this is your football show by the guy who loves football the most. And happy to bring you the show this week. Look out for Tail of the Tape. We have an exclusive interview with Rico DeShulo, former Tough alum and former Bellator and Combat FC fighter, and we had a great interview with him. It was a pleasure having him on the show. So if you watch this show and you don't necessarily watch Tail of the Tape, but if you like MMA, you like UFC, he was a great interview. We had a great time. It was a full episode. We didn't even get to UFC stuff like news and the pay-per-view because the interview was just that good. So check that out on both YouTube and Spotify under Gym Bag Entertainment, Tell of the Tape. All right, so let's jump into some news. First off, Nico Collins signs a 3-year extension for $72 million, making him the number one guy in Houston. This is their dude, and they locked him down for 3 more years. So that tells you all you need to know about his role out there in Houston. And like I said, with all players barring injury. The ruling on Kirk Cousins tampering should come, I believe, this week or next. So we'll see how that one plays out. CeeDee Lamb is not attending OTAs or mini camps, holding out for his extension, which, I mean, at this point in time is sure to come with the fact that other wide receivers getting their big deals. So look for CeeDee Lamb's deal to come sooner rather than later. I can't imagine that they're not going to give him his deal with everything going on. What is this blue light going on? Interesting. So hopefully that's not going to show on the TV, but if it does, I guess it is what it is. All right. Next we have Jauan Jennings gets a 2-year extension with the San Francisco 49ers, $15.4 million with $10.5 guaranteed. That's the bag for that boy. I really like him there. Him getting a deal says a lot for what's either going to happen with Deebo Samuels or Brandon Ayuk. They extend Jauan Jennings. They draft Ricky Pearsall. So either, now that the 1st of June has passed, where a lot of teams get rid of dead cap money if they release players after June 21st, Deebo Samuel saves, I think, 21 to 29 million against the cap if they release him now, or if they were to trade him away. Brandon Ayuk, I don't know if any money's saved. He's still on his rookie deal, so I think they could trade him away without losing anything in game picks. Like I said, I want the New England Patriots to trade for Brandon Ayuk. I'll give up a first-round pick and pay him $30 million. Easy. No problem. Let me adjust my shorts here. Well, that was uncomfortable. So, what's going to happen in San Fran? Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, right now doing the waiting game on what's going to happen with deals or trades. Then we got Jalen Waddle securing the bag, 3-year, 84 and set $0.75 million with $76 million guaranteed. This guaranteed money is going up and up for players. Players are guaranteeing this money to make sure if they get hurt, they still get paid, and I am here for that. So congratulations to Jalen Waddle securing the bag, baby. Olympic wrestler Gabe Stevenson, having 0 football playing time, has signed a deal with the Buffalo Bills. What that deal looks like, it remains to be seen. This is obviously going to be, kind of like a tryout situation. He's going to play defensive line where his wrestling abilities will 100% come into play. And who knows, this guy could be a beast. From what I saw in the little highlight reel of his wrestling ability, he could be very excellent when it comes to the game, playing defensively. So we'll see how that goes. Then we have Justin Jefferson signing a 4-year, $140 million with $110 guaranteed, and I'm pretty sure he got a huge chunk as a signing bonus, something in the $80 million of a signing bonus. So Justin Jefferson, there was a lot up in the air about whether or not, they'd be able to make this deal. Did they want to make this deal? And I think it made the most sense. You got a rookie quarterback coming in. You got a backup quarterback coming in as a rookie, and we don't know if he's gonna pan out. And then you got the second year wide receiver. You got a tight end who's going to be out half the season. You got to pay Jetta his money, and he secured it. And congratulations to him for getting that money. This is great news for guys like CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk, who are the number one wide receivers on their team. I see CeeDee Lamb getting somewhere in the vicinity of the same amount of money. I'd be shocked if he got more. The only way I could see him getting more is if he signed maybe a 5-year deal. I don't see that necessarily happening. So I see him getting somewhere in the vicinity of the same money. These guys' stats are very close. I think Justin Jefferson beats him in yards. CD beats him in touchdowns. So these two guys are going to get very similar money. So it looks good. Man, I really hope this blue is in here. I know you guys don't see it. It's over on this side, obviously. But I hope that's not going to be there in the filming, once this episode is. And if it doesn't, then I look like I'm just talking like a crazy person. But anyway... and then finally, Christian McCaffrey gets a 2-year extension worth up to $19 million. Securing him for another 2 years, making sure that he stays a 49er for all of his best years. So smart of the 49ers to lock down their best and most versatile weapon. So congrats to Christian McCaffrey getting an extra 2 years. Seems a little light, only, $9.5 million a year. Seems a little light for the likes of Christian McCaffrey, but, it is what it is. He accepted it, so he must have liked it. And then you have, unfortunately, RIP to Larry Allen, former Super Bowl champ and Dallas Cowboys star, has passed away at 54 years old. So our condolences and our heartfelt sympathies to his family. And, God rest his soul. All right, so now moving on to my quarterback segment of this episode. All right, so this week I'm doing quarterback rankings, and we are gonna do tiers, and I have 5 tiers of quarterbacks. The number 1 tier being elite starter franchise caliber quarterbacks, the best of the best. Second category is close to elite, top of the bunch. The B tier, guys who can be a franchise quarterback, but they're not the elite of the elite, but they are good enough to get you into a playoff game. But I don't know that they'll win you a Super Bowl. Then we have we don't know what they are, but we know that they're not elite. These are quarterbacks that can 100% lead your team. They can get you winning seasons. They can do what they need to do, but you don't want to hedge your future on them. You definitely want to keep an eye out for, that future franchise quarterback in drafts or via trade or free agency, whatever the case may be. These are the guys that, you'll put them on your roster and they'll start, but, they're definitely not the quarterback of the future. And then then we have rookie and second-year quarterbacks. Guys, we don't know who they are. We don't know what they're going to be in the NFL. Either they played one season or they got hurt or they're just coming into the league. So pretty easy to determine who these guys are. But, we'll go through them. I got a couple guys that, a little bit lower on the spectrum, and we'll talk more about that. And then finally, we got the top tier backup quarterbacks in the league, the guys that you want behind your guy. So that way, if they go down, you're hopeful that these gentlemen can get you, towards a good season. Not going to let you down. All right, so let's jump into it. Starting off in the tier of all tiers, the elite of all elite, the top 8 quarterbacks in tier A, the guys who, you ain't trading away. You don't want, you want them to finish their careers with you, barring injury. These are the most elite, the top 8 of all the league. That was a lot of rambling. I don't know where I was going with that. So, number 1, of course, we know, it goes without saying, it's Patrick Mahomes. The man can do everything and everything. He can run. He can scramble. He can extend plays. He can throw the ball at any angle, and he can make any throw on the field. The guy is Superman and Batman and I wouldn't call him the Flash. He ain't that fast. Superman, Batman, all tied together into one. Patrick Mahomes proved last year that he doesn't even need elite weaponry to make the Super Bowl and win. He's going for his 3rd straight title, 4 titles in something like 6-7 years. I don't even know what the time frame is. But this dude is fighting for GOAT status. He is incredible. I don't hate Patrick Mahomes, but I don't want to like him because, Tom Brady's my quarterback, the GOAT of all GOATs, the greatest person to hold the pigskin in his hand, and Patrick Mahomes is coming for that title, and he's not that far away. He's already got 3, little almost halfway to where Tom Brady's at, and made the playoffs every single year, just like Tom Brady. And it's scary to see him coming up so fast and doing such great things. Man is so durable. He plays through injuries. He plays through turmoil. He takes in the hate and he breathes out fire. This man is the one. Everybody who drafted a quarterback his rookie year before him, they are all kicking themselves. It was, wow. Just so you know, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't believe I am, Baker Mayfield might have been the number 1 overall quarterback selected the year that Patrick Mahomes got drafted. I don't know that I'm right about that, but I feel like I'm right about that. I think it was Baker Mayfield, number 1 overall. Doesn't that hurt deep down inside? It could have been Myles Garrett, though. If I think about it, it might have been Myles Garrett. I'm not really sure, but whatever. Next, you got to put Josh Allen. And now this is a quarterback who plays for a team that I absolutely hate, because, in Boston, we don't like New York teams at birth. We're born with it. So, but I love Josh Allen. He is one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL, if not my favorite. He just plays, actually, no. I've become a C.J. Stroud fan, so I take that back. But he just plays with so much heart and so much grit. Unfortunately, this year, I think they didn't get him the weaponry he needs, and this is going to show. Are you up there with that in that Patrick Mahomes status, or is Patrick Mahomes alone in his own tier? But you need to show what you're capable of this year when your weaponry has been depleted a little bit. Can you bring your game up to elevate their game to get you to a playoff berth and maybe win some games? Can you win a Super Bowl? I don't know. It takes defense too, and I don't want to take anything away from Patrick Mahomes, but they did have one of the best defenses in the league last year, which did help him in his road to the championship. But Josh Allen, the mobility, the size, the arm talent, he's just a hair away from being right there with Patrick Mahomes, but he needs some titles, and he needs playoff wins. He needs all that, So I'm a huge fan of the guy, and like I said, his offense isn't looking as good as it has in the past. So hopefully he can make stuff happen. Hopefully the coaching staff can get these guys where they need to be in order for Josh Allen to play the way that he needs to play. But got to keep him in this tier for as long as he's healthy. Next on the list, I tussled between these next two quarterbacks, Joe Burrow and C.J. Stroud, but I got to go Burrow. Because when Burrow is healthy, sometimes Burrow is the best quarterback on the field. He's beat Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game to make it to the Super Bowl in which he lost. But, Joe Burrow, he's got the swag, he's got the arm. He's not the most mobile quarterback in the NFL, but he could be a little bit mobile. He can get outside the pocket. He can get you 5 yards if need be, ish. But he's just so good with the ball. They got an elite squad. They added Jermaine Burton, and I think that's going to bring them to a whole nother level. I like the addition of Mike Gesicki. I think that's might possibly be an underrated draft pick. And but I like it. I mean, it's not draft pick. I mean, signing. I also really like the fact that they drafted Eric All. I think that could also be an underrated pick. So we'll see how that goes. And then we got to talk about the young boy, C.J. Stroud. Now, I couldn't even put him in the tier of first and second year quarterbacks because I think we know what C.J. Stroud is. He is a dog. That boy is a straight baller. Can put the ball 70 yards down the field onto a dime. He's not exceptionally mobile, but he can make a little bit of play with his legs. He can make any throw on the field, and he's got all the weapons to make it happen that he needs. So I'm super excited to see what C.J. Stroud has for us in the future. But as of right now, I got to put him in this top tier of the most elite quarterbacks in the NFL. And I can only see him getting better with the addition of Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon. I mean, sky's the limit for this kid. And as long as he remains healthy, Houston Texans could be Super Bowl bound. And I'm here for it. Next, I got to go with Justin Herbert. Now, I'm telling you, you might not see it this year. And you definitely didn't get a real genuine chance to see it last year, But Justin Herbert might be top 5 in the league. I have him right in the top 5 at 5. And I think there's a possibility he's better than that. Last year, no O-line. The weapons weren't really doing what they were supposed to be doing. And then he gets hurt, right? But before that, Justin Herbert is one of the elite. He is relatively mobile. He has some of the best arm strength in the NFL, accurate, and can make, once again, he can make any throw. He's so tough and just gritty. He is a footballer's footballer, and I hope with the addition of John Harbaugh, that they got some weapons that are. I'm gonna say their weapons are underrated. Ladd McConkey is gonna be fighting for Rookie of the Year, offensive Rookie of the Year, and I think that Joshua Palmer, he's a very good big body wide receiver. Every time he comes in, when someone's injured, he always balls out. So Ladd McConkey can come in. I think he can handle that number 1 wide receiver slot. You got Joshua Palmer as your X receiver going deep. And then I think if they could find a way to utilize Quentin Johnson as a big-bodied slot, kind of like a Debo, or like a Jalen Reed more accurately. Jalen Reed is, I think, more comparable to what he's capable of. Get him the ball in short yardage and let him make plays with his legs. I think under John, they can get what they need out of this kid, and he can resurge in his second year. They got viable run game as long as Gus Edwards healthy. He's not super efficient, but he is a pretty good running back. I like the young kid Vidal, so I think once he gets his reps, I think you're gonna have a nice young squad that can get the job done for Justin Herbert. They added Will Dissly, which I love. I think Will Dissly got hit under a rock in his time in Seattle. And so after his first injury, but his rookie year, he was so great. If you had him in fantasy that year, which I did, he was balling out. I got to trade him right before he got injured for the season. And after that, he wasn't the same. So if they can get that production out of him again, I think we're looking at a very strong team, and I think we could see Justin Herbert come back. They also got the young kid, Brandon Rice, Jerry Rice's son. Maybe Jerry Rice comes in and helps out wide receiver coach situation going on. Who knows? I don't know, but I like the young kid. I think he's got strong hands. He's a big body wide receiver. So I think that the Chargers offensively could be very underrated, and I think they could do some things. Then I got to put Lamar Jackson here, and I think a lot of people are like, oh, Lamar Jackson should be top 3, this, that, and the other thing. And you could be right. And I could be dead wrong putting them this low, putting them below Justin Herbert. But I just think these guys' arm talent, it exceeds Lamar Jackson's ability. Lamar Jackson with his legs is the best man, most athletic and most untackleable person in the NFL. Like, he's just, his field vision, his cuts, and his ability to avoid being tackled is, bar none. He's so incredible. And that's why I keep him in the Elite 8. But I think he has, in the Elite 8, he might have the lowest arm talent. Not to say he doesn't have the arm talent. He does. But I think his arm talent is just below. And what is a quarterback but a guy who has to throw the ball? His arm talent is very important. Yes, he can run, and he can get you all the yards in the world rushing. But at the end of the day, you got to throw the ball, and he is exceptional at throwing the ball. Once again, I'm not going to take anything away from Lamar Jackson, but when it comes to arm talent, that's why I got to put him under Justin Herbert, because I think I think sometimes he can get in his own head, and I like the fact that he's trimming down. They're going to utilize Derrick Henry in the run game, which means that, Lamar Jackson has to make even more steps forward in his passing game, and I think he will make the leaps forward, and maybe, by the time the season starts, maybe I'll have him higher. Maybe a few weeks into the season, I'm jumping him up into the top 3 spot, but as of right now, I got to put him below Justin Herbert. All right, and then we got, I can get flack on this all day, but I got to put Jared Goff here. I mean, Jared Goff has shown everybody that he is one of the elite quarterbacks in this league, one of the best. He is accurate. He is gritty. He doesn't get hurt, so he's always on the field. And when he's playing in a dome, I don't know that there's a better QB. I think, They just barely missed making it to the Super Bowl. The defense didn't really come through for them, and they made some mistakes on offense. But don't forget, this is Jared Goff, who made it to the Super Bowl his rookie year. And in the 5-year span he's been in the NFL, 5 years, maybe 6-year span he's been in the NFL, he's made it to the Super Bowl twice. That's more than Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, not Patrick Mahomes. So, 2 Super Bowls in his career, NFC championships. He's made it to 2 NFC championship games in his short career. So 1 Super Bowl, 2 NFC championships. That's elite. I don't care what anybody says. And he's done it for 2 different teams and 2 different coaches. So I don't know how you don't see Jared Goff as elite. And then finally, this is another one I can get a little flack on, but I have to keep the faith that Trevor Lawrence is elite. And so I think last year was got to be written off. We're never going to forget it. We're definitely not going to forget what happened, but we gotta scratch it out a little bit and give him another opportunity to prove that he's elite. He didn't have a lot of help on the offensive line, and I think they made improvements there. I think Brian Thomas is going to be the weapon that he needed. I think that there wasn't the right chemistry between him and Calvin Ridley, and I think Calvin Ridley was taking on, like I said it multiple times, he was taking on defensive pass interferences. So you give a couple of them passes back, a couple of them touchdowns, and maybe we're looking at a different season for Trevor Lawrence. So I'm going to keep Trevor Lawrence in this elite category and then see how the season plays out, and maybe I have to adjust him. But he can make plays with his legs. He's got elite caliber arm talent, and he can extend the play. He could do everything. He came out of college as the best prospect at the quarterback position and at any position in a long time since Andrew Luck. And I think, a lot of similarities in the play between him and Caleb Williams. So we'll see how that plays out. All right. Tier 2. And these are your franchise quarterbacks, guys who you can have for the future, but we don't know if some of them, they might be able to crack that elite talent. And then the others, maybe they fall down into that, they could be our starting quarterback, but they're not the future. They're right in between. They're right in that balance. And some of these guys this year, they're going to make that leap into the elite. But right now, I got to put him here in the second tier. And we're going to start off this tier with the guy who, last year before, I might have ranked him in the top 8. But he's getting a little older. He's a little bit injury prone. Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's one of the best quarterbacks the NFL has ever seen. He's a gunslinger. He's going to get you, 4,000 yards plus a season. And he elevates the talent around him. Not super mobile, but with the arm talent he possesses and the speed in which he gets the ball out, he doesn't need to be that mobile. But once again, he can make a little bit of play with his legs. And as long as Matt Stafford is healthy, I think he does necessarily belong in the elite category. But you never know if you're going to get the healthy version of Matt Stafford, which is why I got to put him in that tier 2 category. Next on the list, I got to go Jordan Love. Jordan Love proved all of us wrong and showed us all that he can play at the highest level in the NFL. They got him a bunch of young talent and wide receivers at tight end. Bringing in Josh Jacobs was probably the best move. I hear a lot of negativity about Josh Jacobs, that the one great season he had was the outlier season, which is true. Based on his career, it is the outlier season. But I believe that that's just the caliber of running back he's capable of being. Can he do that every year? Definitely not. Can he do it his first year in Green Bay? It's very likely. I think they want to establish the run in order to open up the game for the pass game, which they have one of the most talented squad of wide receivers. Like, everybody they have has like such a great comparison and has some of the abilities that Jalen Reed. He's their, low budget Debo. He can do some of the things with his legs that Debo can do. You got your Christian Watson, who is like not an elite route runner, but he's got that deep threat ability. That make play for the ball. He's kind of like a great value D-Hop. And then you got, Romeo Doubs, your ex-receiver, your big guy, end zone threat. Relatively good route running. And he could be, in comparison to that's a tough one. I got to come back to him. They got Wicks, who I love. Wicks is like their number 4 wide receiver, but can come in and jump into that 2 slot. He can end up beating out Christian Watson for that number 1 wide receiver role. He has the talent and the capability to do it. And then you got the two tight end set with Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, 2 guys who are going to be fighting for that number 1 tight end slot. And this tight end duo could end up being so incredible. Luke Musgrave, tall, speedy. Tucker Kraft, big, strong. He has that genuine tight end feel to him. And I think this offense is electric, and Jordan Love is managing it like a vet. And in some aspects, he is a vet. He backed up Aaron Rodgers for 4 years and just watched one of the greatest quarterbacks do it for 4 years while keeping his mouth shut and remaining humble. And then they snapped the leash off, and he didn't hit the ground running. But once he did start running, he never stopped and he never slowed down. And I think tasting that air of championship by getting as far as they did is making them even hungrier for more. They're all young and they're all ready to go and get it. As long as that defense plays to the same caliber, I think that Green Bay is a team to watch out for when it comes to the playoffs and Super Bowl contention. And then we got Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts, he's one of the ones that really says, like, I should be in this 8. But a piece of me is like, are you, or are you just a product of your environment? Because, based on, I do believe that players are products of coaching, and an okay player can become great with the right coaching, and a great player can become trash with the wrong coaching. And yeah, he had really good coaching the year that he went to the Super Bowl, and now it has, it's not as good as it once was. And maybe Kellen Moore coming in as the offensive coordinator will bring them back to that caliber that they once were. I think the addition of Saquon Barkley is really going to take a load off of him with the whole tush-push situation. I think that he could focus on just, the quarterback play. He don't need to worry about the QB sneak. And, he still got all the elite weapons he had last year. So I think that this is the year we find out, is Jalen Hurts actually an elite tier quarterback, or is he going to remain in this tier 2 where, yeah, he's good enough to be your starting quarterback and he may make it to the playoffs, possibly to a Super Bowl, but he might never win one, or he could fall apart altogether if the system isn't going the way it's supposed to. So I love Jalen Hurts. I'm a Jalen Hurts fan all day, but, they lost Jason Kelce, and they lost some weapons on defense. What I do like is they added 2 top-tier corners in Quinyon Mitchell and the white kid. Can't think of his name right now. But they added those 2 corners, and I think that was a great addition. So hopefully if the defense stays on their game, Jalen Hurts can also stay on his, and that'll work out. And then we got Kyler Murray, who, once again, another guy. I mean, all these guys have a way of cracking into that elite. And Kyler Murray, he's fully healthy. He showed last year that he is recovered. He's still got the speed. He's still super elusive, and he could throw the deep ball. The addition of Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to bring him to a level that I don't think he was able to reach, even though he was still great when he had D-Hop. I think this is going to elevate him just a little bit more. D-Hop was kind of going towards the tail end of his career and had some injuries in Arizona, so I really like that addition. Trey McBride, top 3, if not top 2 tight end in the league this year. And so I think that is going to really help Kyler Murray reach that elite status. They brought in a young running back, and I think they got really good weapons. Zay Jones. I think Kyler Murray has everything he needs to succeed. And he's going to show us, is he elite, or is he just the franchise quarterback that can get you to the playoffs? And we're going to find out. Dak Prescott next on the list. A guy who, I think, we can all say Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I don't believe Dak Prescott, he's probably one of the only 3 quarterbacks in this category that I think can never make it to the number 1 category, but could also fall to the 3rd category of just a guy that, can quarterback your team, but is not going to take you any further than that, and eventually you're going to need to get the guy. But he is a very good quarterback. Like, he gets the ball into his receiver's hands. He is mobile. He is durable. He's gritty. Like, Dak Prescott is like a dog when he's behind that line of scrimmage. And as long as the coaching is right, I don't know if I like Mike McCarthy as the head coach. I think that there's a possibility Bill Belichick might come in there, shape up that defense, and get that offense rolling. But I like Dak Prescott, but he'll never be in that elite tier. And then we have Aaron Rodgers, a guy who was at one point in this elite tier for most of his career, but I don't think he'll reach that status anymore. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback for another year or 2 before he retires, but I don't think he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback anymore after that injury. And I'm just not really a big Aaron Rodgers fan anymore. I don't like the person, and I don't know if I like the football player anymore either. And then finally in Tier 2, we got Tua Tagovailoa. Accurate, accurate, and accurate. No mobility, not very durable, not very gritty, but definitely a good pocket passer and can throw the ball anywhere on the field and touch his receiver right on a dime. And that's good enough. Never going to be elite, but definitely going to be good enough. All right, now we move into Tier 3. Tier 3 is, like I told you, basically they're Jags. Just a guy, the quarterback that's good enough to run your offense, but they're never going to be elite. Maybe some of them, one or two, can sneak into this second category more than just a guy, franchise caliber, win playoff games. Some of them have done it. Some of them even made it to a Super Bowl. But I just don't see them as that, MVP, that Super Bowl winning caliber quarterback, the guy who puts the team on his back and makes things happen. Never going to be that Patrick Mahomes, that C.J. Stroud, never going to be that Tom Brady, never going to be those guys that name rings in infamy. So let's start off with arguably the best of them is Brock Purdy. Now, Brock Purdy made it to a Super Bowl. His defense lost it for him. So, is he a Super Bowl caliber quarterback? No. But he is a great system quarterback. And I think Brock Purdy is very good. I think he's very good. There's an argument definitely for the second tier. There was MVP arguments, but when you got Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, and Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Shanahan as your coach, if you're not making it to playoffs and to Super Bowls, you shouldn't be in the NFL. 100%, you could put half the guys, no, not half. You could put any one of these guys in this third category on the 49ers, and they're going to make the playoffs and potentially make an NFC championship game. I believe that wholeheartedly. So, but he still has to throw the ball. He still has to get the ball in his receiver's hands. He still has to extend plays. He has to take hits, and he does all this, and he does it very well. And, he came in to a spot that he was never supposed to have, a job he was never supposed to get, and he came in and he handled it like a G, He has elite talent. He has veteran talent without veteran time. So I'm a fan of Brock Purdy. I think come to fantasy, he is one of the elite, but real NFL football can't put him in that elite, and I have a hard time believing he's in the second tier. Then we got Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, to me, has the best storyline of an NFL quarterback that's not in the elite caliber. Drafted number 1 overall, coming to the NFL with all the swag and piss and vinegar, just ready to ball out, but he let it go to his head. And, he had a good season, and then he kind of crashed and burned. And then he got traded or signed, whatever, to the Carolina Panthers, to a team that was just doo-doo and didn't have the right coaching and wasn't able to showcase anything, loses his job to backups. So then he moves on to Tampa Bay with Dave Canales as his quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, and just elevates Baker Mayfield, gets him back to playing Baker Mayfield football. He's been humbled by the trajectory of the beginning of his career, and now is being elevated by the confidence he is getting in the gameplay that he is exhibiting. And so I'm super happy for Baker Mayfield. He's become a quarterback that I always want to root for. Not a big Baker Mayfield fan, but he's a quarterback I do want to root for. I like the road of his career thus far, and I think on this team, the Buccaneers, with the weapons they have, he can remain successful. And as long as he doesn't let this previous year's success go to his head like he did in Cleveland, I believe he can continue to have this success going further as his career progresses. Next on the list, I had no choice but to put Deshaun Watson here. Deshaun Watson, at one point in time, he was in this elite caliber, And we thought when he came back, he would be in the second tier of guys, but now he's fallen into this C category of just a guy, just the man that you got on your roster. You got enough weapons that, he can't really mess it up too bad. But last year showed that Joe Flacco was the better quarterback. Now, was that due to injury? Or has Deshaun Watson lost the man he used to be? He still is mobile, so he's going to give you the rushing. And he still has a strong arm, so he can air it out downfield. But he's lost some of that accuracy, the decision making, and he's just not an elite quarterback. Now, maybe all this changes. Maybe he's had a full year to recover. He made the decision to bench himself so that he could get the recovery he needs. So maybe we see a revitalized Deshaun Watson. But until I see it, he's got to remain into this C tier. And then we got Russell Wilson, another guy who was once in the elite tier category, won a Super Bowl, made it to another, MVPs and Pro Bowls and all the accolades you can ask for, one of the best to ever do it. But something's happened. He's lost his way. He's not playing Russell Wilson ball. Was it the system on the Seahawks under the coaching of Pete Carroll? Was it the offensive coordinators? Was it the weapons he had around him? But he went to Denver and he pooped the bed. Had a decent mid to end of the season last year. But now he goes to the Steelers, a team that is a defensive team that has offensive mindset, a defensive coach with offensive mindset. And I like this landing spot for Russell Wilson. I think that he can play the first half of the season really well, but I do believe that Justin Jefferson comes in and takes over that job, which is why I had to put Justin Jefferson in this tier as well. Because Justin Jefferson, right now he feels like just a guy, but sometimes he can play to this second tier level where he has elite, top of the line, number one running ability amongst quarterbacks. He has a strong arm. He can air it out down the field. Little bit of accuracy problem and a little bit of the decision-making problem. He doesn't get the ball out fast enough. But if that can be coached into him, like the timing and getting the ball off and locating his receivers, going through his progressions, I think there's a possibility that he can revitalize himself and end up into tier 1, but at the very least jump up into tier 2. Then we move on to Geno Smith, a guy who is just like, 2 years ago he's elite. Last year, he's in this category. I got to put him here because we don't know. He has all the weapons he could ask for, but last year the offensive line wasn't great. If he gets a clean pocket, what does it look like? If they can maintain a clean pocket for Geno Smith, what are we going to see? I don't believe we're ever going to see A-tier elite quarterback play from Geno Smith, but can he elevate himself to tier 2? I do believe he's capable of it, and I will root for Geno Smith to get to that second tier, but until he proves that it wasn't a one-off season, and the fact that he did get drafted and lost his starting job and kind of moved around from through a team or two, says I have to see it again in order to believe it. And then the last two in this tier, the bottom of the barrel, in my opinion, is Derek Carr and Daniel Jones. Now, I actually put it down Derek Carr over Daniel Jones. Excuse me. But if Daniel Jones is healthy and he gets his rushing legs back with the weapons he has, not elite weapons, but he has good weapons, and he's got an elite wide receiver in Malik Nabers. I don't care what anybody says. Malik Nabers is going to be elite this year. If he can get the ball to Malik Nabers and he can make plays with his legs, Daniel Jones 100%, not just above Derek Carr, but I'd put him above Geno, I'd put him above Russ and Deshaun Watson. So we got to see it to believe it. I don't think he could ever make that second tier. He's not going to be a franchise quarterback, and he's never going to be elite, but he could definitely be a guy who can carry your team, maybe get you to a playoff wild card spot, maybe win a playoff game. 2 years ago, Daniel Jones, that's the guy you can believe in. Last year, Daniel Jones, that's a guy you need to get rid of. So we'll see how it plays out. And then there's Derek Carr. And what more can I say about Derek Carr than he's washed. He's old. I don't think we're going to see much of anything better this year. I think Spencer Rattler gets the job, and we need to that's the future we need to look towards. So with that being said, let's talk about the future. This last tier, which isn't really necessarily a last tier, this is the quarterbacks of the future. What are they going to be? Starting off with the best of the bunch. No, excuse me, not the best of the bunch, but one of the best of the bunch. A guy who can make it to elite, but at the very least tier 2 is Anthony Richardson. One of if not the most athletic man on the field when he's healthy. He has the arm strength. I don't know if he has the arm talent, and I don't know if he has the decision making, but he is a MVP caliber quarterback, and we just need to see him be able to stay healthy and put it all together. Bryce Young was number 1 overall pick last year, put on a terrible team with no O-line. Second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. I am not holding this against him. This is his prove-it year. They gave him all the weapons he could need. They fortified that offensive line. They made moves on defense. They have Canales. Canales did it for Baker last year, did it for Geno the year before. He is going to do it for Bryce Young this year, and I think Bryce Young could jump up into that second-tier quarterback because he has elite arm talent. Caleb Williams, number 1 prospect coming out of college since Andrew Luck, since Trevor Lawrence, but better than Trevor Lawrence. That's what they're saying. So this kid is either going to be the greatest of all time or he's going to be the biggest bust in NFL history. So we got to see how it plays out. But I am excited to see with what he's been given, what he can do with it. He's coming to the NFL with a big head. He's a little bit of I don't want to say a little bit. He is a diva. But getting a lot of flack because he's a young kid and, he dresses funny and paints his nails, has pink iPhone case. I don't care about none of that. I only care about once you put the NFL uniform on and the NFL helmet on and you got the pigskin in your hands, what can you do? And he has to showcase this day 1 in the NFL, and I can't wait to see what he does. Then you have Jaden Daniels, the other guy, the guy who I wanted to be a New England Patriot. He has elite arm talent. He can run the ball with the likes of Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson and Anthony Richardson. He has those capabilities. Can he bring it all together in the NFL? Can he take hits like he did in college from NFL caliber defensive players? We don't know none of this, and we're about to find out. But I also think he's on a team that is set up for him to succeed, especially with the weapons. Terry McLaurin, Luke Caffrey, Jahan Dotson. They drafted Ben Sinnott, and they have Zach Ertz. So everything's set up for him to be successful. And then you have Drake May on the New England Patriots. I think he's a little bit underrated. I don't know if he'll start the season. I think our weapons are a little bit underrated as well. I think he has the weapons to succeed as it pertains to him just playing well and showing that he's an NFL franchise quarterback. I think he'll be able to showcase this year, and I don't think we're going to make the playoffs. I don't even think I think we're going to be a bottom 10 team this year, and that's fine as long as Drake May looks good doing it and makes games entertaining. I'm here for that. We can get a quarterback, a number 1 wide receiver next year. We can work on the offensive line next year, but we need to make sure that Drake May is the guy. Will Levis, another dude. Is he the guy, or is he just another Jameis Winston who's just going to play YOLO ball? He's got the weapons to play YOLO ball, and that could work out for him. But he's got the strong arm, but does he have the talent and the vision to bring that all together? J.J. McCarthy, another guy that, not a lot of people think he's NFL ready or an NFL caliber quarterback, that he is just a product of a system. Well, what better team to be on to be a product of a system than the Vikings with one of the best coaches in the NFL and Mike McDaniel? If there's a place to be a system quarterback, it's definitely the Vikings. They got a relatively good run game. One of the best wide receivers in the NFL. A great second-year wide receiver, a tight end who once he's healthy will look good. They signed Robert Tonyan, a tight end who I like. He's not elite, not great, but he's good enough. He's definitely good enough to hold that slot until TJ Hawkinson comes back fully healthy. They got a good O-line and a relatively good defense. I think this is a good place for J.J. McCarthy to prove that he is not just a guy, but that maybe he could be that franchise guy. And then you got Bo Nix. Bo Nix is not a quarterback I believe in. I believe he will be one of those quarterbacks who remains in this C tier, where, he's a guy, but he's not going to be the franchise. Spencer Rattler, that's a tough one. He's either going to be just a guy, or he could be a tier 2 franchise quarterback who, over the years, can become elite. And then Joe Milton. Joe Milton's definitely a guy. He's going to probably be a backup in the NFL. Just the ability. He's going to be the guy you bring in on Hail Mary plays because he can definitely put that shot on where it needs to go and throw it 70 yards downfield for a Hail Mary play. So if you get that speedster who can take off running on people and Joe Milton can hit him in stride, I think you got your Hail Mary king in Joe Milton. And then there's a guy that not a lot of people talk about is Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker, back up in Detroit, third-year quarterback who's never got to showcase his skills. And I am dying to see this kid start in the NFL. He was a former Heisman Trophy winner. Injuries held him back. If he's 100%, I think it's a mistake that nobody's making calls or that the Detroit isn't allowing him or trading him to a team in which he can showcase who he is. He's being hidden in a closet. And once he breaks out, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I look forward to seeing it. And then the final tier is the best of the best backups, starting with my favorite backup, Jacoby Brissett, a guy who can come in and manage a team. He's a great locker room guy, a leader, and he is good enough to manage a roster. You put him on the 49ers as a backup, and if Jacoby Brissett goes down, if Brock Purdy goes down, I think he could be the guy who could keep them right on pace and make it to a Super Bowl, 100%. Drew Lock, more of a gunslinger, but if he comes in as a backup, good enough to get the job done, good enough to win a game or two while your quarterback's getting healthy. Gardner Minshew is by far, I said Jacoby Brissett, but I wasn't thinking about Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew is my favorite, but not because of his talent, but just because of the type of player he is. He's just a ball. He's just a genuine football guy. He's fun to watch. He's good for the NFL. I love the fact that he's the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. He's going to be fun to watch. He's going to make that team entertaining. He's super gritty. He's just Ryan Fitzpatrick all over again. And everybody loves Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I want to see more of Gardner Minshew. I want him to be playing as long as he can in the NFL. And then you got Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo his problem is injuries, but when he's not injured, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely can be a tier 2 guy. He's incredibly accurate. And he's just a good football player. He has good vision, and he can get the ball out very, very fast. He just has a problem with deep ball accuracy and remaining healthy. Sam Darnold, we don't know what's there. I don't think he got legs. He can run, but he's never really had the ability to show that he is the quarterback he was drafted to be. Some said he was the most NFL-ready quarterback coming out of the draft, but we never really got to see that ability. Jameis Winston is just YOLO ball all day. He's entertaining to watch, a little dumb, a little, whatever, but he's fun to watch. And if he ends up being the starting quarterback in fantasy, he's definitely going to get big numbers for your receivers. Josh Dobbs, another guy that you just want to root for and you want to see him play. He's only going to be good for 1 or 2 games, but he's entertaining. Desmond Ridder he's just your backup. You want to have him on a team where your quarterback runs the ball. He's backup in Arizona, which is great because if Kyler Murray goes down, he has the leg talent to do similar things. He'd be great in Baltimore, on Indy, but it was a great landing spot for him to go to Arizona. Carson Wentz, they got him over in Kansas City. I think this is really good. If Patrick Mahomes goes down, at least they got a gritty quarterback who's familiar with tough, big games. So I like that there. Carson Wentz, definitely never going to be even I don't even think, he'll always be a backup. He'll never go beyond backup unless someone gets hurt. Joe Flacco, comeback player of the year, which I disagree with, but has shown that he still has the ability to keep progressing a team. I thought it was a stupid move for him to go to Indianapolis. And it's a completely different system if Anthony Richardson goes down. You have to change your whole game plan. So it didn't make a lot of sense for him to go there, but that's where he's at. Jake Browning showed that if Joe Burrow goes down, that he can carry the team. He's not going to get you into a playoff game or a Super Bowl, but he could definitely carry the team and get you some dubs. Tyrod Taylor, just a journeyman, but he's accurate and mobile. And then finally, Ryan Tannehill, not on a roster, which is super surprising to me. I don't know if it's that he doesn't want to be a backup. If that's the case, then you're never going to play in the NFL again. But I think he's waiting for that team to call him when their quarterback goes down and they want a savvy veteran to come in. But I like Ryan Tannehill and hope he gets to play. So that's my quarterback rankings for the week, and that's all the time I have for you today. So until next week, have a good night.